The first thing Ethan Cole felt was pain. A dull, heavy weight pressing inside his skull. His eyelids were glued shut, his body refusing to move. It was as if the world had been paused for centuries, and only now someone had pressed play again. He forced his eyes open, and the light stabbed into them like sharp needles. The blurry shapes in front of him slowly became clear, and then his breath caught in his throat. Hovering above him was not a human face. It was smooth, pale silver skin that glowed faintly in the dim light. Eyes the size of coins, glowing. A deep blue stared into his own. They were filled with something strange. Not hatred, not curiosity, but worry. Careful, human. The voice was soft, almost shaking. You've been in a coma for over 20 years. Ethan blinked, his dry lips trying to form words. 20 years. That was impossible. The last thing he remembered was being on the Vanguard, a human exploration ship, running emergency drills after an alarm had gone off. Then, darkness. The alien woman, at least. Ethan thought she was a woman, wore a dark blue uniform. Lines of glowing symbols ran down her sleeves. A small badge rested near her neck, and the alien letters shifted and reformed like liquid. He tried to sit up, but the alien placed a hand gently yet firmly on his chest. Her fingers were long, ending in faintly glowing tips. Don't move too fast, she said. Your muscles. They've been sleeping too. Ethan swallowed. Where am I? The alien's eyes flickered to the side, as if checking the shadows before answering. You're in medical containment, Sector 12, under my supervision. She hesitated, her voice dropping lower. And you must not let anyone know you're awake. A shiver ran down his spine. He glanced around. The room was small, metallic. The walls curved like the inside of a giant cylinder. Strange machines stood on either side of his bed, blinking in colors he couldn't understand. Tubes had been in his arms, now removed, leaving faint red marks. Why? He whispered. Why can't they know? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she leaned closer, and Ethan caught the faint scent of something metallic. Because there are people here who would not want you to continue existing. Before Ethan could respond, a shadow passed the small round window in the door. It lingered for a second. Then it moved away. The alien woman's eyes narrowed. She straightened. My name is Lyra, she said softly. I am your supervisor officially. I am to monitor your recovery. Her gaze hardened, unofficially. I am here to keep you alive. Ethan felt a dozen questions crash into his mind at once. Alive from what? What happened to me? What happened to Earth? K. At the last question, Lyra's face shifted. The worry in her eyes deepened, but she didn't speak. Instead, she touched a device on her wrist, and the machines around Ethan powered down slightly. The lights dimmed, the hum of energy softened. There will be time, she said, though her voice suggested the opposite. For now, rest, regain your strength. And remember, you remember nothing. Ethan frowned. Why would I pretend not to remember? Her gaze darted again to the door. Because if they think you remember, they will take you away. He opened his mouth to ask more, but a sudden loud metallic clank echoed from somewhere down the hallway. Lyra's eyes widened. She stepped quickly to the door, peered out, then shut it with a soft hiss, locking it, Ethan's. Heart pounded. Every instinct told him something was wrong, horribly wrong. When Lyra turned back to him, her voice was barely a whisper. You must trust me, Ethan Cole. 20 years you have slept. But the danger that put you here, it still breathes. He stared at her, his mind racing. Who was she really? Why had she been watching him for 2 decades? And why did her eyes look like she had been waiting for this moment all her life? But before he could speak, she placed one finger gently over his lips. Not now, she said. Someone is listening outside the door. Footsteps stopped. A deep, guttural voice spoke in an alien language. Low and threatening. Lyra froze. The voice spoke again, then slowly faded. As the steps moved away, only then did she speak again. Rest, human, she said softly. You will need your strength. Because once they know you're awake, there will be no going back. Ethan closed his eyes. But not to sleep. He knew one thing for sure. Whatever this place was, it was not just a hospital, and the alien woman watching over him was either his only protector or part of the trap. Either way, he could feel it. The real danger hadn't even started yet. Ethan woke again to the low hum of alien machines. This time, his mind felt sharper, his body a little less heavy. Lyra was standing near the window, her tall frame outlined by the strange light of the alien city beyond. He pushed himself up slowly, his muscles trembling. Where is this place really? He asked. She turned, her glowing blue eyes studying him. For a long moment, she didn't answer. Then she walked to the side of the room and pressed a panel. The window walls shifted, turning transparent Ethan's breath. Caught beyond the glass stretched a vast alien city. Towers of glass and metal twisted into shapes no human engineer would dare design. Flying craft zipped between them like silver fish in an endless ocean. Bridges of light-connected buildings miles above the ground. Strange creatures of all sizes moved along walkways, some floating, others walking on limbs that bent in ways that hurt his eyes. It's beautiful, he whispered. It's dangerous, Lyra replied, her voice flat. You are on Orevan Prime, capital of the Galactic Dominion. Ethan's eyes darted back to her. Dominion. That doesn't sound friendly. Lyra's gaze dropped. 20 years ago. Earth was attacked during the Human-Zereth peace talks, she said quietly. Your ship, the Vanguard, was in orbit above the conference station when the war began. His stomach sank. What happened to Earth? She didn't speak right away. Instead, she walked to a console and touched it. A holographic image bloomed in the air. Earth, beautiful blue and white. Then, fire. The image shook with silent explosions. Red scars spreading across the oceans. The blue faded to a sickly gray. No. Ethan's voice cracked. Lyra looked at him, her expression unreadable. Earth is gone. Human. It was made uninhabitable. The survivors scattered across space. He stared at the projection, his mind screaming that this had to be a lie. But deep inside, he knew the truth was worse than any dream. Then why am I here? He asked, why didn't I wake up with my people? Her eyes softened. Because your people are not here anymore, and because someone wanted you kept alive. He frowned. Who? She shook her head. That answer will kill you if you have it too soon. Before Ethan could press her. A sound outside drew his attention. The window shifted again, showing a landing platform, where a group of alien soldiers were dragging someone in chains. The figure stumbled, and Ethan's heart froze. It was human, a young man, dirty, thin, his clothes torn. He looked half dead. The soldiers shoved him into a metal cage on a hover platform. Then the platform lifted and sped away. Ethan turned sharply to Lyra. What was that? Another survivor? Where are they taking him? Her jaw tightened to the lower sectors. And what happens there? He demanded. She didn't answer, but her silence was louder than words. He felt a rush of anger. You can't just let that happen. Her eyes flickered, a faint spark of something like guilt. You are not ready to fight this city, Ethan. You can barely stand. He gritted his teeth, trying to rise from the bed. His legs trembled violently, but he forced himself upright. Then help me get ready. For the first time since he woke. Her lips curved into the ghost of a smile. You speak like the humans I read about. She murmured, the ones who never knew when to run. I've been asleep for 20 years, he said. I'm done running. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Then listen carefully. The Dominion's council believes you are harmless. They think your coma made you forget everything. That is the only reason you are alive. And if they know I remember," he asked, "they will take you to the archive chambers." She said, "No one returns from there." A sharp knock sounded on the door. Both of them froze. Lyra moved fast, activating the medical scanners, forcing the machines to beep as if they were monitoring a sleeping patient. She gestured for him to lie down. The door slid open. Two tall insectoid aliens stepped inside, their black eyes scanning the room. They spoke in clicking tones, glancing at Ethan. Lyra replied in the same language, calm and steady. After a tense pause, the guards turned and left. When the door shut, Ethan sat up again, his heart pounding. "They were checking if I was awake." "Yes," Lyra said. "And next time, they may not knock." She returned to the window, staring out at the city. "You have missed much, human. The world you knew is gone. The people you knew are scattered. But if you want to survive, you must learn how this city breathes." Ethan joined her at the window. Looking out at the alien skyline, somewhere out there was another human in chains, and maybe more. He didn't know why fate had chosen him to sleep through the end of the world, but he knew one thing. He wasn't going to waste whatever time he had left. And though he didn't see it, Lyra's hand curled into a fist at her side. As if she too was preparing for something, because the world Ethan missed was not just dangerous. It was hungry. The lights in Ethan's room dimmed to a soft blue. Lyra had told him it was night cycle in the facility, but Ethan could not sleep. His mind kept replaying the sight of that chained human being dragged away. He lay still, listening. The hum of the machines was constant, but now and then he caught faint noises, distant doors opening, footsteps that stopped to suddenly metallic clinks followed by silence. This was no ordinary hospital. Slowly, Ethan sat up. His legs ached, but could hold him now. He glanced toward the door locked from the inside, then to Lyra's side of the room. But she wasn't there. The bed was empty. The chair she often used was pushed back on the floor. Faint blue lines glowed in patterns he hadn't noticed before. They led to a section of the wall where the metal was slightly darker. Ethan moved closer, pressing his ear to the wall. Voices, low and sharp, were speaking in an alien language he couldn't understand. One voice was definitely Lyra's, calm but urgent. The other was deeper, harsher. Curiosity burned through his fear. He ran his fingers along the wall until they found a thin seam. He pushed lightly, and to his shock, a small section slid open with a hiss. Inside was a narrow passage barely big enough to stand in. He stepped inside. The voices grew louder. "The human is waking faster than expected." The deep voice growled. "If he remembers, he won't." Lyra cut in quickly. "I am keeping him contained. You risk too much, Supervisor." The deep voice said, "The Council wants results, not sentiment." Ethan froze. His name wasn't mentioned. But there was no doubt who they were talking about. There was the sound of heavy footsteps walking away. Then silence. A moment later, the hidden door on the other side slid open. Lyra stepped through, her expression hard. She stopped dead when she saw Ethan in the passage. "What are you doing here?" she demanded in a whisper. "I could ask you the same," he shot back. "What's really going on, Lyra? What are you hiding from me?" Her eyes narrowed. For a moment, Ethan thought she might lie, but then she sighed. The glow in her eyes dimming slightly. "This is not just a medical wing, Ethan. This is a containment facility for who? For anything the Dominion deems dangerous," she said quietly. "You are here because you are rare, valuable, and possibly a threat." Ethan's stomach twisted. "So I'm a prisoner. You are alive." She countered sharply. "Do not confuse the two. Many in here would kill to have your cell." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "There are things in this place that cannot be allowed to escape, and there are people outside who will pay to take them, or you, alive." Before Ethan could respond, a distant alarm began to wail. Lyra's head snapped toward the sound. Her hand went to the device on her wrist. "What's happening?" Ethan asked. "An intrusion," she said quickly. "We must return to your room now." But Ethan wasn't ready to go back. He pointed down the narrow passage. "Where does this lead?" Her silence told him more than words. It was an exit, or at least a path deeper into the facility. Lyra grabbed his arm. Her grip surprisingly strong. "Not yet. You are not ready to see what is down there." But before she could drag him away, a figure appeared at the far end of the passage. Limping, the dim blue light revealed a face bruised, cut, and human. Ethan's heart stopped. "It's him," he whispered. Remembering the prisoner from earlier, the man's eyes widened at the sight of Ethan. "Help me," he croaked before collapsing. Lyra's expression darkened. She looked around quickly, then knelt beside the man, pressing 2 fingers to his neck. "He's alive, but barely." Ethan's voice was sharp. "We can't just leave him." Her jaw tightened. "If the guards see him here, they will know someone helped him escape. That someone will be me, and you will lose your only protector." "Then we hide him," Ethan said firmly, surprising even himself with the command in his tone. For a moment, Lyra studied him. Then she nodded. Together, they lifted the unconscious man and carried him back through the hidden passage into Ethan's room. Lyra activated the wall panel. The metal shifted to reveal a narrow storage compartment. They placed him inside, concealed from view. The alarms outside grew louder. Heavy footsteps thundered past the door. Shouts in alien languages echoed down the hall. Lyra turned to Ethan. "Not a word to anyone about him." "Not yet." Ethan nodded, but his mind was already racing. This place was filled with secrets, and if he was going to survive, he needed to uncover them. All of them, somewhere deep inside. He knew the facility wasn't just keeping him in. It was keeping something else out, and whatever that was. He had a feeling it was getting closer. The alarms finally went silent. But the tension in the air stayed. Ethan sat on the edge of his bed, his eyes fixed on the hidden compartment where the other human lay unconscious. His mind was a storm of questions, but Lyra wasn't offering answers. She stood near the door, listening for any sound outside. Her glowing blue eyes flicked to him. Then to the storage wall. "They've sealed the lower levels," she said quietly. "Whoever helped him escape is already dead, or soon will be." Ethan's hands curled into fists. "And if they find him here?" Her voice was cold. "We don't let them." He stared at her, frustrated. "Why are you even helping me? Why not just hand me over to this council?" Lyra didn't answer right away. She walked to the console and entered a series of commands. The lights in the room dimmed, the hum of the medical machines fading into silence. "Because you saved my people once," she said finally, her voice softer, "and you don't even remember." Ethan blinked. "I've never seen your people." Before she shook her head. "Not in your waking life." She turned toward him, her silver skin catching the faint light. 21 years ago, your ship, the Vanguard, was not on a simple exploration mission. It was sent to negotiate between humans and my species. The Zerali Ethan tried to remember, but his mind felt like fog. "And the war started?" "Yes," Lyra said. "But before the attack, there was an explosion in the lower decks of the Vanguard. Fire tore through the engineering section. My delegation was trapped. The emergency doors had sealed. The air was running out." She paused, her gaze distant. "A human officer broke through the sealed door and pulled us out, even though the heat was burning his suit. That officer was you." Ethan stared at her, trying to process the words. "I did that?" "Yes," she said simply. "And minutes later, the ship was hit. You were injured, taken to the medical bay." And that is where you fell into the coma. He shook his head slowly. That doesn't explain why I've been here for 20 years. Her expression hardened, because what happened after changed everything. The Dominion blamed the humans for the attack. Earth refused to surrender. The war that followed destroyed your homeworld. Ethan felt like the air in the room had thickened, and the council. They see you as a relic, she said, a piece of history to be studied, controlled, or erased. The only reason you are still breathing is because I claimed you as my patient and swore that you remembered nothing. Before Ethan could speak, the unconscious man in the storage compartment groaned. Lyra moved quickly, opening it just enough to slip inside. She knelt beside him, scanning his vitals with a small handheld device. His injuries are old, she said. Beatings, starvation, maybe weeks without proper rest. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then we need to get him out of here. Lyra looked at him sharply. Do you think I can just walk you both out of a Dominion facility? This place is surrounded by armed patrols, scanning drones, and worse. Then tell me the truth, Ethan said firmly. Everything you're not saying. She hesitated, then stood. Fine. But once I tell you, you cannot go back to pretending. They will see it in your eyes. Ethan nodded, his heartbeat heavy in his chest. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. The facility you are in is called the Avrix Containment Center. It is not only for prisoners, it is also a vault. A vault? Ethan asked. Yes, she said. A vault for weapons, information, and living beings the Dominion fears or desires. Some of those beings are from species so dangerous they can wipe out entire cities. Some are human. Ethan felt the cold sink into his bones. There are more of us here. Her gaze shifted. Not many, and not for long. The Dominion does not keep humans alive unless they are useful. A sudden pounding echoed from the hallway, the sound of boots, fast and heavy. Lyra's eyes widened. Hide him, now, Ethan helped her shove the compartment shut. The bed adjusted itself automatically as Lyra returned to her station, typing rapidly on the console. The door slid open, and 2 alien guards entered, their insect-like legs clicking on the floor. One of them spoke in its sharp clicking language. Gesturing toward Ethan, Lyra answered calmly. Holding up a medical scan, the guard hissed something that sounded like suspicion, but finally turned and left. The other following when the door sealed. Ethan let out the breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. They're looking for him. Yes, Lyra said, and if they find him, they'll know someone here is working against them. Ethan met her gaze. Then we moved before. They do. For a long moment, she didn't respond. Then she reached into her uniform and pulled out a small metallic disc. She pressed it into his hand. If something happens to me, use this. What is it? He asked. Her voice was almost a whisper. A map to the only place left where your kind still has a chance. And in that moment, Ethan realized 2 things. 1, Lyra had been risking her life for him far longer than he knew. And 2, the real danger was not inside the facility, but waiting for him outside. The facility was quieter than before. But Ethan could feel the tension in every sound, somewhere in the distance. Machinery hummed like a restless predator waiting to strike. Lyra moved quickly around the room, collecting small devices and tucking them into a black satchel. Ethan sat on the bed, watching her. You're leaving, he said, his voice steady. She stopped but didn't turn. We are leaving. His eyes narrowed. You mean me and you? And him. He nodded toward the hidden compartment where the unconscious human lay. Yes, she said, but we must move before the next inspection. The Dominion will tighten security by the next cycle, and then escape will be impossible. Ethan stood, his muscles still weak but stronger than before. What's the plan? Lyra finally looked at him. There is a service route under the medical wing. It connects to the waste disposal tunnels. Those tunnels lead to a maintenance hangar. From there, We take a craft and fly. Ethan smirked. Simple. She didn't? Smile. It is not. The tunnels are monitored by drones and the hangar is guarded. Then we fight our way through, Ethan said, without hesitation. Lyra studied him. You have no weapon training for Dominion tech. He gave her a small grin. I'm a human soldier. We improvise without another word. Lyra pressed a panel on the wall. The hidden compartment slid open. The other human groaned weakly as light touched his face. Ethan helped lift him. Surprised at how light he felt, the man's wrists were raw from restraints, his eyes barely open. What's your name? Ethan asked softly. The man's lips moved. R. Ryan. Lyra's gaze sharpened. Save your strength. We move now. They slipped into the narrow maintenance corridor behind the wall. The metal floor vibrated under their steps, and the air smelled faintly of oil and ozone. Lights flickered overhead, casting strange shadows. Halfway down, they reached a steel hatch. Lyra knelt beside it. Entering a series of codes into a small pad, the hatch unlocked with a hiss, revealing a dark hatch. Tunnel below. This is it, she said. Once we enter, we cannot turn back. Ethan climbed down first, then helped lower Ryan. Lyra followed, sealing the hatch above them. The tunnel walls were wet, covered with strange glowing moss. The air was heavy, almost humid, and somewhere ahead, water dripped steadily. They moved quickly. Ethan keeping one arm around Ryan for support, Lyra led the way, her steps silent. A faint worry sound echoed through the tunnel. Lyra froze, holding up a hand. Drones. She whispered. A moment later, 3 small hovering machines appeared around the corner, their red scanning beams sweeping the tunnel. Lyra pulled a small device from her satchel and tossed it toward them. It landed with a soft click and burst into a blinding flash of light. The drones whined in confusion, spinning erratically before crashing to the floor. Nice trick, Ethan muttered. Keep moving, she said. They turned another corner and stopped. Ahead, the tunnel opened into a wide chamber. A massive security gate blocked the exit, and beside it stood 2 Dominion guards. Tall reptilian aliens with armor that shimmered in the dim light. Ethan's heart pounded. We can't sneak past them. Lyra's expression was grim. Then we distract them. Before he could ask how, she stepped into the open, speaking in the Dominion language. The guards turned toward her, weapons raised. Ethan used the moment to pull Ryan along the sidewall. Edging toward the gate's control panel, the guards barked something sharp. Lyra raised her hand slowly, and then dropped a small black sphere at their feet. The sphere exploded in a burst of smoke, filling the chamber. Ethan seized the moment. Slamming his fist into the control panel, sparks flew. The gate groaned and began to lift. Go. Lyra shouted through the smoke. They rushed through the opening just as the smoke began to clear. Behind them, the guards roared in anger. The tunnel ahead sloped upward. The air grew colder, and faint light spilled from ahead. They emerged into a massive hangar filled with small craft, sleek and silver. Mechanics worked on some while armed guards patrolled the area. Lyra pointed toward a small 2-seat vessel near the far wall. That one, she whispered, but getting 2, it wouldn't be easy. The patrols moved in tight patterns, leaving only brief gaps. Lyra studied their movements, then nodded. We move on my signal, she counted under her breath, then darted forward. Ethan followed, half carrying Ryan. They weaved between stacks of crates. Keeping low, a guard turned suddenly, spotting them. He shouted. Raising his weapon, Ethan reacted without thinking, grabbing a loose metal rod from the floor and hurling. It struck the guard in the head, knocking him back. Run. Lyra called. They sprinted toward the vessel. Lyra activated the hatch, and they scrambled inside. Ethan placed Ryan in the rear seat, while Lyra slid into the pilot's chair. Her fingers flew across the controls. The engines roared to life. More? Guards rushed toward them, weapons firing. Blue energy bolts sizzled past the hull. One struck the side, shaking the ship. Lyra pulled back on the controls, and the vessel lifted off the hangar floor. The roof split open above them, revealing the alien night sky. Ethan looked out. His breath catching, the city lights stretched. Forever, but their freedom lasted only a moment. Alarms blared across the hangar, and several pursuit ships launched after them. "They're coming," Ethan said, gripping the seat. "I know," Lyra replied, her eyes fixed ahead. "Hold on. This is going to be rough." And with that, the small craft shot into the alien sky, the chase beginning. The stolen craft burst out of the hangar into the alien night sky. The air was alive with glowing traffic lanes, massive towers rising like dark mountains, and swarms of lights from countless ships moving in every direction. Behind them, alarms screamed across the city. The sleek silver shapes of Dominion patrol ships shot upward from the hangar, their blue thrusters burning through the haze. Ethan gripped the side of his seat, feeling the ship shudder under the sudden acceleration. Ryan lay weak and pale in the rear seat, his eyes half open. "We're not going to outrun them in this thing," Ethan warned. Lyra's hands moved rapidly over the glowing control panels. "We don't need to outrun them," she said, her tone razor sharp. "We need to lose them." The first blast came from behind, streak of blue energy tearing past the ship and exploding against the side of a nearby tower. The shock wave rattled their hull. Ethan felt the vibration through his bones. "They're targeting us," Ethan shouted. "They've been targeting you since the moment you woke up." Lyra replied coldly. She jerked the controls to the side. The craft spinning through a narrow gap between two cargo freighters. The freighters were so close that Ethan could see alien workers staring through their windows as the human and alien fugitives sped past. Another patrol ship dived from above, cutting off their escape path. Lyra pulled hard on the controls, flipping the ship upside down and sliding. Under the enemy craft in a dangerous roll, Ethan's stomach lurched. "That was too close," he muttered. "Close is survival," Lyra said, her eyes locked forward. The sky around them became a maze of light and shadow. Lyra threaded the craft between neon bridges and hovering platforms, weaving so fast Ethan could barely keep track of where they were. The pursuing ships stayed close, their weapons firing in bursts. One blast clipped their left wing, sparks flying. The ship tilted dangerously, but Lyra adjusted quickly, leveling them out. "We can't take many more hits," she said. "Then, where do we go?" Ethan asked, scanning the skyline for cover. Lyra hesitated for only a second. Down, before Ethan could argue, she pushed the controls forward, and the ship nosedived toward the lower levels of the city. The lights grew dimmer, the air thicker. The sound of the upper city hum faded into a low, constant rumble. Ethan looked out the side window. The buildings here were older, their walls covered in rust and strange moss. Steam poured from vents, and narrow bridges hung like spiderwebs between decaying towers. The patrol ships followed, their lights slicing through the gloom. "They're still on us," Ethan said. "Good," Lyra replied. "They think they have us trapped." The tunnel appeared so suddenly that Ethan almost didn't see it. A massive industrial vent, big enough for their craft, but barely. Lyra angled the ship toward it. The opening loomed ahead, its metal blades spinning slowly. "You're not serious?" Ethan said completely. Lyra answered. She hit a control, and the ship's forward blasters fired, melting one of the vent blades just enough for them to slip through. The craft scraped along the sides. Metal screeching against metal, sparks lit the narrow tunnel. As they shot into darkness, inside, the air was hot and heavy. Glowing pipes lined the walls. Carrying some unknown liquid, the tunnel twisted sharply, forcing Lyra to make brutal turns that slammed Ethan against the seat. The patrol ships tried to follow, but their larger frames clipped the tunnel walls. One exploded in a burst of light. The shockwave pushing their smaller craft ahead. They won't all crash, Lyra said. The best pilots will make it through. Sure enough, 2 patrol ships still followed. Weaving expertly through the tunnel, their weapons' fire lit up the dark passage. Ethan's eyes caught a glowing panel above Lyra's controls. What's that? He asked. Coolant release, she said. A faint smirk on her face, she pressed it. And jets of freezing vapor blasted from the ship's rear. The tunnel instantly filled with a dense white cloud. Blinding the pursuers, one slammed into the K. One slammed into the while the other spun out of control but recovered, still chasing, persistent, Ethan muttered. That's why we end this now, Lyra replied. They burst out of the tunnel into a massive underground cavern filled with strange machinery. Giant fans and pools of glowing blue liquid. The sound of rushing water and grinding gears echoed through the space. Lyra pointed toward a narrow gap between 2 massive reactors. Hold on, she said. The ship shot toward the gap. The walls so close, Ethan swore he could touch them. The pursuing ship followed, but Lyra pulled a sudden maneuver, rolling the craft and sliding into a hidden alcove between the reactors. She killed the engines, plunging them into darkness. The enemy ship shot past, searching the cavern, unaware. They were hiding only meters away, after a tense minute. It turned and disappeared into another tunnel. Ethan let out a long breath. That's actually impressive. Lyra powered the ship back up. We're not safe yet. We still need to get out of the city. As they rose toward a faint shaft of light above, Ethan glanced back at Ryan, who was barely conscious. We have to get him somewhere safe. Lyra's eyes flicked to him. If we make it past the outer defense line, I know a place. What place? Ethan asked. Her voice was low, almost hesitant. The last safe zone for humans. If it still exists, and as they climbed higher, the city below shrinking. Ethan couldn't help but feel that the real danger wasn't the chase. It was what waited for them once they were free. The stolen craft broke through the final layer of the city's atmosphere. The blackness of space opened before them. Endless and cold. Stars shimmered like distant fires. And the glowing curve of the planet fell away beneath. Ethan leaned forward. In his seat, his heart pounding, we made it, he breathed. Lyra didn't respond. Her eyes stayed on the controls, scanning for signs of pursuit. Not yet, she said quietly. The Dominion's defense grid is still ahead. Ethan followed her gaze, and his stomach tightened. A massive wall of ships hovered in the distance, sleek and deadly. Their formations stretched across space like a net, blocking every path out. Ryan stirred in the back, his voice weak. They'll shoot us down, not if we move fast enough, Lyra said. But her tone told Ethan she wasn't entirely sure. She adjusted their course toward a narrow gap between 2 of the larger ships. Ethan could already see the faint shimmer of an energy shield stretching between them. That's not a gap, he said. That's a wall. Lyra's lips tightened. I can break it, but once I do, they'll see us. Before she could act, a new signal lit up the console, a deep pulse, rhythmic. Human tech. Ethan leaned closer. That's ours. Lyra glanced at him sharply. Yours? He nodded. That's a human military beacon. It means friendly ships. She hesitated. Her hands still on the controls. If you respond, they will come for you. That's the point. Ethan said. Her gaze darkened. No, that's the end of you. The Dominion will claim you are their prisoner, and your own people may believe them. They will take you away, and I will not be able to follow. The truth hit him like a punch. If he answered the beacon, he would be safe with his own kind. But it would mean leaving Lyra behind in enemy territory, the alien who had protected. Him for 20 years, who had risked her life over and over. Ethan looked at her. If I don't respond, we'll have to keep running. The Dominion will never stop hunting me. Her voice softened. Then we run together. He glanced back at Ryan, barely conscious in the rear seat. And what about him? And any others like him, humans still trapped in this system. Lyra's expression flickered. If you stay. With me, we can find them quietly, without the Dominion knowing. But if you go to your people now, you will vanish into their war, and you may never be allowed back. The beacon signal pulsed again, louder, closer. His own people were near. Ethan's hands hovered over the console. His mind spun with the weight of the choice, humanity. Or the alien who had become his only constant in this new, broken galaxy. Ethan, Lyra said, her voice low but steady. When I found you in that medical bay, I thought you were just a duty. But now, you are my only friend, my only reason to fight. His chest tightened. The console flashed red Dominion patrol ships were breaking formation. Heading straight toward them, Lyra's eyes darted between the incoming ships and the beacon signal. You must decide now, she said. If you respond, your people will come. And I will leave before they arrive. If you don't, we fight our way out together. For a heartbeat, Ethan was frozen. Then his hand moved, but not to the beacon. Instead, he pushed the throttle forward. The ship surged toward the gap between the Dominion warships. Lyra's eyes widened. You're not calling them? He shook his head. I've already lost one home. I'm not losing another. Her lips curved into the smallest smile. Then hold on. The warships ahead powered their shields, bright blue walls of energy shimmering across space. Lyra's fingers danced over the controls, the ship's engines roared, and Ethan could feel the heat building under his seat. A warning siren screamed in his ears as they approached the shield. Lyra hit a hidden switch, and the small metallic disc she'd given him earlier slid into a port on the console. The ship's systems flared with sudden energy. The front of the craft shimmered with a strange golden light. The shield was seconds away. The patrol ships fired, bolts of plasma streaking past. One hit their rear thruster, rocking the ship violently. Ryan groaned in pain from the impact. Brace. Lyra shouted. The golden light around the craft expanded, and they slammed into the shield. For a moment, it was like flying into a wall of fire. Then they were through. The stars opened before them. Behind, the Dominion ships scrambled too. Follow, but the golden light faded, leaving the shield intact, trapping them on the other side. Ethan leaned back in his seat, his heart racing. We made it. Lyra's gaze stayed forward. We escaped. For now, Ethan turned to look at her. So, where now? She adjusted their course. Somewhere the Dominion doesn't go. Somewhere your people won't look. Somewhere we can start finding the others. He nodded slowly. Then we start. There, the stars stretched ahead like a road into the unknown. And for the first time since he woke, Ethan didn't feel lost. He felt ready. Because home wasn't Earth anymore. Home was wherever they could survive together.